Now, it's time to get some advice. And the advice that we have is from Fiona Murphy, our bunny rabbit expert. Because if you're anxious about an anxious bunny rabbit, she's the lady to be speaking to. Fiona, good morning. Good afternoon now.
Morning. Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Listen, great to have you with us. Anxious bunny rabbits. How would you even know if one of them was anxious?
So a lot of it is by their body language. So if you see your rabbit cowering in the corner, or they're looking like they're trying to hide somewhere, they're shaking, their breathing is very fast, chances are that they're feeling very anxious. So because they're prey animals, new situations and new environments can really upset them. And I know we've talked in the past about gut stasis and how their guts have to be moving all the time. But if they get anxious and upset, then sometimes their gut can slow down or stop moving altogether. And obviously that can be fatal as well. They're really sensitive little souls and they don't like any kind of change. So you have to be on the alert for these kind of things for them.
When you think of it as simply as that, Fiona, it really does make total sense, doesn't it? That being prey animals, you know, the amount of times that I've seen a rabbit plucked off some sort of hillside by a swooping eagle or you know, some sort of animal of prey chasing them down.
Yes.
They're attacked from every angle. It's not surprising they're slightly anxious in nature, isn't it?
Exactly. And it's completely inbuilt in them. So even if they're pet rabbits and they've never had an experience like that, they still have this fear and this flight or fight mode. So, yeah.
In a modern household where there aren't literally animals trying to kill them at every single turn and eagles swooping from above, what types of things can stress a bunny rabbit out in your house or mine?
So any kind of change at all can be really upsetting. They're really creatures of habit and they don't like change at all. So they like their routine. They like their dinner at a certain time. I always say they have clocks in their tummies because if you're 5 minutes late to their dinner will woe betide you. And if there's something like DIY going on or visitors in the house, change in routine when the kids go back to school, for example, anything like that can kind of throw them because it's not what they're used to and they just don't like the adjustment. They also tend to not like things being moved around too much, sometimes in their pen area even. And you often see that when you tidy up their pen and you move things around and you make it all pretty and then they come and they fling everything around and push it and have a temper tantrum basically because they didn't put it the way they like it, you know?
Right. And, you know, but when things change, sometimes it's unavoidable, of course, you know, things just have to change. How long does it take the rabbit for the change to become normal, to become routine for them, do you think?
Depends very much on the rabbit. So some rabbits are actually okay and they're more resilient. You know, others recover quicker than other rabbits do. And then some just take a long time just to get over things, you know. And a lot of it can be down to their personal history. So if you've got a rescue rabbit, for example, we don't always know what their history was. Quite often they're just unfortunately dumped and you don't know whether they were badly treated before that, whether they were attacked by an animal while they were in the woods or whatever. And those kind of rabbits can be more jumpy or if they've had a lot of change, they've been moved from house to house, you know, maybe they've been rehomed a couple of times.
Yeah.
They find it harder to get over things and it can take them a long time. And the smallest little change can be difficult. And then other rabbits have never had a negative experience or they could just be naturally very resilient.
Okay. Well, text and WhatsApp's already starting to come in for you, Fiona, on this topic. So we'll get to some of them in a moment. But if anybody else wants to get one in and avail of the expertise, 083 306 9696 by text or WhatsApp. Either way, they'll arrive on this magic screen here in front of me and I can read them to Fiona. But Fiona, just finally, from my own questions in relation to that anxiety, just how bad could it be for a rabbit if they are feeling that anxiousness? You know, is it more than just them carrying in a corner? Is it something that we really have to be concerned about? And at what point would you suggest maybe people taking further action if needed?
Yeah, so it can be fatal because they can go into gut stasis fairly quickly. And if they decide that they're not going to eat or they're not going to poop and their guts start to shut down because they're so stressed, then they can unfortunately pass away within a few hours. So if your rabbit isn't eating and isn't pooping, that's a really serious thing. So I recommend that people change the litter trays for the rabbits every day because then you know whether they've pooped in the last 24 hours and what the poop looks like compared to how it was the day before. And if your rabbit is stressed, one of the things you need to try and do is try and encourage them to eat. So offer them their favourite treat. And if they refuse to take that or they're not eating their dinner, sometimes can be the first sign of it. It's really helpful to have a first aid kit at home, and there are things that you can do at home to hopefully avoid them going into the gut stasis. But within a couple of hours, if they're not picking up,
first aid kit? I mean, I presume you're not talking about you know, plasters and Disprin. I mean, what's in a first aid kit for a rabbit?
Yeah, so one of the most important things you can have is a thing called critical care, which is basically a powder that you make up with water and it's full of hay and fibre and probiotics. And you can syringe feed your rabbit with that as well. So if they're not eating and they're not pooping, sometimes that can really help getting the gut going again. However, sometimes when they're not eating and they're not pooping, it's because they have a blockage. So if they possibly have a blockage or they have bloat or gas, that can actually make it worse. So you need to really know what you're dealing with before you do that. So ideally you have that in your first aid kit for after you've seen the vet. Things like a rabbit heat pad can be really helpful because you can sit your rabbit on your lap and you can put them on top of the heat pad on your lap and you can rub their tummy, and that can help keep their gut moving or start it moving again if it's a bit slower. Rabbit probiotics can be really useful to have in your first aid kit as well, and syringes, because sometimes the gut is dehydrated, and if you can syringe some water, preferably with probiotics in as well, sometimes that will help get the gut moving again as well. What else have I got in my first aid kit? I have a class on it on my bunny club.
It's quite a lot of stuff, and a lot of it is very much sort of focused on that ability to keep the gut moving. The more I speak to you, the more important I realise that is.
Yeah, it's so serious. It really can be. So if your rabbit doesn't pick up within a couple of hours, then you need to try and get them to the vet ASAP, because unfortunately they can go downhill very fast. And of course, if it's something like a blockage, that's more serious again, and they can really go downhill. So it's the most serious thing that you can watch out for with your rabbit, really, is to make sure that they're eating and pooping. And if they're not, then to the vet.
Okay, well, let's move on to a more mixed selection of questions that are coming in the text and WhatsApp line. Fiona, first up, somebody wondering, have you any advice on the best cage to use for a rabbit? Also, should it be located indoors or outdoors? Now, I remember you talking to me about this in the very early stages, but remind us about your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so the thoughts now are that cages and hutches aren't big enough for rabbits anymore, that they need a space at least 2 meters by 3 meters. And even with that, they should be out a lot. They need room to binky, which is when they jump in the air and twist because they're happy. They need room to hop around and stretch and stand up on their back legs and periscope and look around them. They love doing that. And they can't do those things in a cage. So really what you're looking at is a pen that's 2 meters by 3 meters inside your house, or a predator-proof situation in the back garden. What they really recommend is that you have a shed that the rabbit can run free in, or that you can pen off part of it so that it's safe for the bunny to be in. So lots of space rather than a cage.
Okay, lots of space rather than a cage. Well, Susan is actually joining us on the line, Fiona. I hope you'll be able to hear her. But Susan, you've got a question that you want to put to Fiona about rabbits. Go ahead.
I have.
Hi, Susan.
Hello. Good afternoon. But, why do rabbits make huge holes in my lawn and in my flower bed? They have the place torn to pieces, and
I presume these are wild rabbits, Susan. You don't own your own rabbits, do you?
Well, they're around for so long, I nearly think I own them. But
so that challenge that Susan is facing there, Fiona, rabbits digging holes all over the place because she's been so nice to them for so long now. They think her back garden and her flower beds are theirs. Back garden. Yeah.
Yes, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot you can do about that because it's just a natural behaviour, and they don't realise that it's a garden and precious flowers as opposed to just anywhere in the field that they can dig as well. So the only thing you can do is fence off areas or fence off the flowers that you really don't want them to dig in.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a tough one, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Susan, what are you going to do?
Well, I have quite an amount of lawns, and they have the lawns also torn to pieces. And there would be holes at least 5 to 6 inches deep.
Yeah, that would be normal. Would that be normal, Fiona? 5 to 6 inches deep?
Sadly, yes. Yeah. And they'll keep on going if they're allowed. And then, of course, you can fall on them and twist your ankle, or, that's not great for your lawn at all.
Fiona, I hate to ask this question for somebody who has such a love for rabbits, right? And I'm going to sort of go back to the days of those What's Up Doc type cartoons, and Elmer Fudd was going around the whole time with a shotgun calling on pesky rabbits. Probably something that you wouldn't. But is there anything that people can do if there is a rabbit infestation in and around the house, the garden? Is there anybody they can call? Give Susan some advice at least, will you?
Yeah, I don't know that there is anybody. I don't know whether any of the pest control companies have any idea about what to do with that. It's not really something I've come across, to be honest. It might be worth phoning one of the pest control companies and see whether they
trap and release or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. They might do trap and release, but obviously I wouldn't be advocating poisoning or shooting or anything like that. It's really just as a case of fencing areas off as best you can, and rabbits will do what rabbits will do. Unfortunately, Susan, I'm sorry. Sometimes motion activated sprinklers or lights can startle them or deter them from approaching as well. So that could be something you could think about as well. Makes your lawn an unpredictable environment, so that makes it less appealing to them. like we said above, they don't like things changing.
Susan, what types of flowers have you got in the back garden? Are they eating the flowers on you as well, or are they just digging the holes? Is that the main problem?
They're both eating the flowers, and they're so well up. They actually stand on their little feet, their back legs, and they eat the roses off the shrub.
Oh, eat the rose, but they won't eat the thorny bush itself.
No, not that way. But they have the whole place absolutely in a terrible way.
And it must be a challenge for you, because I'm sure you don't want the holes in the back garden, and you want the beautiful roses out in the back garden to be able to look at as well. But there's also a sense that you also enjoy watching them and knowing that they're there. Is that the case still, Susan, or are you fed up to the back teeth of them?
I'm a little bit fed up because they're on the front lawns as well. I have quite an amount of lawns, and when you're trying to lawn mow, it's quite big. When the wheel of the lawnmower goes down into the hole, you can get a sudden jerk.
People got advice coming in as well. I won't necessarily read all of it out though from that perspective, for fear of upsetting the bunny rabbit lovers that are around the place. But maybe that idea, Susan, might be one for you. Maybe ring up somebody that does, see if they do a trap and release or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't like to trap, I wouldn't like to trap the cats or anything like that. Unfortunately, they're quite a nuisance.
Okay, quite a nuisance. Well, there you go. Listen, Susan, hopefully we'll be able to get you more advice all in good time, but maybe I'm sure those expert companies, when it comes to the trapping and releasing, will be able to do something that might trap and release humanely a rabbit without catching a cat or anything like that in the mix as well. Oh, there you go, Fiona. Challenges. Hey, more questions coming in. I mean, it's a very difficult one to deal with. It's great to see the wildlife out there doing well, but I mean, if you've got a manicured garden, beautiful roses, I'm not sure I'd be so happy about it as well. Yeah. Listen, how would you bath a rabbit? Somebody's asking.
So you shouldn't bath a rabbit. Okay. Is the quick answer.
So
to that.
No, you don't.
So rabbits are.
Do they smell?
If they smell, it's probably one or two problems. So they have scent glands either side of their genitals, and they need to be cleaned regularly. And if they're not cleaned, some rabbits clean them themselves, but it's something you should do when you're doing the nail clipping. I know we talked about that a few weeks ago. If they don't have them cleaned, they can get this waxy substance build up in it, and that can smell. So that could be part of it. So it'd be worth cleaning their scent glands. I have a YouTube video on how to do that, if you want to look me up. Other than that, it could be that they have poop stuck to their fur. That's usually diet related, or they're overweight. So again, a vet visit would be worth it, and it would be worth looking at their diet to see if there's something you can tweak. Some rabbits have really sensitive stomachs, or people can be feeding them the incorrect thing, or they can just have a genetic predisposition to it. So that could be looked at as well. But other than that, and sometimes occasionally if they've got a lot of poop stuck to their fur, you might have to do a small bath where you just bath their butt and you're just doing it in a very shallow amount of water. Okay. So the problem is that they don't dry very easily, and they can go into shock very quickly. Their fur can take forever to dry. And if they twist when you're trying to bath them, you can end up with a rabbit with a broken back or a broken leg. Well, so really,
a huge amount of care involved in looking after a rabbit, really, by the sounds of it, in that regard. It's challenging. People are also saying, though, on the other side of things, that they have a giant Flemish rabbit, a fabulous pet. They would recommend it, says that particular texter. Also asking, not about the giant Flemish rabbit, I'm sure they know about the vaccinations. Another texter wondering about rabbit vaccinations. Do rabbits need vaccinations from the vet against, for example, myxomatosis?
Yes, so they should have a 3-in-1 jab once a year, which is myxomatosis, RHD1 and RHD2, so man-made diseases that they created to get rid of the wild rabbit population, and unfortunately it's spread all over the world to pet rabbits as well now, and it creates internal bleeding, and they can be hopping around and then dead in 3 hours just out of nowhere. So definitely vaccinate your rabbits, because that is spread through flies. It can come on your feet if you've been walking in the woods somewhere where wild rabbits have been. If you walk into a pet shop where somebody else has walked and they have dragged it from their house, or they've dragged it from somewhere else, or car tires, it can just come in anywhere. So just because your rabbit is indoors, they're not safe from those things. Okay. So once a year, they should have that. Some vets now have available an injection for it. Also a new strain of RHD2 out as well. So it's worth asking your rabbit soggy vet.
It's interesting because we've got some texts coming in giving advice to Susan, and this particular text of might fit in line with or against some of the recommendations that are coming in to help Susan. It says, I'm caring for an injured wild rabbit which I rescued from my cat. Now, I presume when they say rescued from my cat, it's have it in a cage. It won't eat or do anything, or won't drink anything, should I say. Should I just release it? Now, maybe that's a bit more difficult to sort of gauge, but would you be suggesting just a release and hope for the best, or bring it up to a vet and hope for the best? Where would you go?
I would contact the Kildare Wildlife Rescue.
Yeah.
Your vet will give you the details, or I'll give you the details afterwards, Brian. I'll send you a text.
Yeah, brilliant.
And they'd be better to ask them, because they'll come and collect the rabbit and take care of it.
Okay, that would get some
because
advice.
if you release it, it could be injured, and that's why it's not eating, and it could die quite quickly. So
okay, but if you send that information to me, I'll read it out here in a moment. When it comes to cats, because that's the point that was made by that listener that I wanted to ask you about, because somebody else was giving advice to Susan regarding the lawn, saying maybe if you had a cat, Susan, it might chase the rabbits away. Now, there's one thing sort of going and chasing playfully, shoo, shoo, shoo off my owner's lawn type thing. But is a domestic cat an actual threat to maybe next door's neighbour's rabbit that's kept in the back garden?
Yes, unfortunately they can be. Some of them will be absolutely fine with them and they'll leave them alone. But I have known episodes where people have had a rabbit picked up by a cat. One where the rabbit was flung around really badly by the cat, and actually the rabbit died. And they can also die of fright if the cat gives them a fright. So you'd want to, again, consider them a predator. When your rabbits are outside, consider cats as well as foxes and birds of prey. Yeah.
So it is advice that's coming in to help Susan, but it might end up in just all the rabbits being killed, which is obviously not what we want as well. Again, something else I've never heard of, fly strike. So I don't know whether that's a phrase that you know, but any advice for fly strike? It killed one of my rabbits, says Joyce.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, fly strike is really serious. So fly strike is basically where flies bury into a rabbit's skin and lay eggs, and it turns into maggots, and it basically eats the rabbit's flesh. So rabbits that are very prone to it are rabbits that have an open wound, rabbits that have that poopy bum or wet fur because they've got a urinary problem. So it is important to keep your rabbit's diet correct so that they don't have poopy bum. It's important to keep them safe from flies if you have a rabbit like an open wound, or if they're wet because they've got a urinary infection or something. So things like fly strips and lavender apparently keeps the flies away.
So planting lavender around the area?
Something like that. Yeah. But keep them indoors if you can. And over the summertime, you need to keep their pen very clean and their litter tray very clean, because it's attracted to the poop in the cage as well. So the cleaner you can keep it, the better. And unfortunately, they can die within a couple of hours. We don't always know they have the fly strike. You need to rush your rabbit to the vet straight away if you find it, because unfortunately, they can pass within a couple of hours. And obviously, it's extremely painful. But even if you do that, they can still pass. So it's unfortunately one of those unfortunate things. I'm sure it's nothing that Joyce did or didn't do, but there are things that you can do to help reduce the chances of it. But it is an awful thing that affects rabbits, and I'm so sorry to hear that. That's awful.
Well, Fiona, listen, sorry to finish on that note, but great advice in terms of dealing with it, and something that I'd never even heard of, fly strike. There's a new one on me. Listen, the bunny coach, Fiona Murphy, really, really appreciating the time. Thanks for all those texts and WhatsApps. It's interesting to learn so much, and for those that are giving me the advice to pass on to Susan, I will very much go through and sanction and sort of qualify which advice I'll give on air and which advice I won't give on air. There you go.
Perfect.
Fiona, take care. We'll speak to you all soon. Look after yourself. The bunny coach there, Fiona Murphy, joining us and hopefully answering all of those questions that you've gotten in.